before connecting with you, I've tried multiple other agencies. I've hired people to run ads for me and spent thousands of dollars a month, and it wasn't effective. And the stuff that I get with you has been significantly more effective than those tens of thousands of dollars I've spent previously. So I wish I had an awareness of a lot of this earlier on, so it would have saved myself a lot of money.
So, hey, Thomas, why don't we start just telling people who you are and what you do, and then we can dive into it from there. Cool?
Awesome. So my name is Thomas Hanna, and I am the founder of Tempest Counseling. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and I specialize in anxiety, trauma, religious trauma, and grief. I have clients that are sometimes outside that scope, but those are kind of my primary areas of focus. And in working with you, I was again starting off and dialing in a particular focal point and then kind of building out from there. And we started off by kind of working to dial in marketing for anxiety and to build up a caseload that was kind of geared around that one before I kind of bring in some of my other specialties. And so that's kind of where we are at in that, and that's going pretty well.
Awesome. Okay, so first off, let's start with the story of how we even got connected, because I know it took what, a year or more?
Yeah, I was a stalker. That's just,
Yeah.
it's always a good way to
So
build relationships. That is not
yeah,
a good way to build relationships. That's how I get clients, is from people who build relationships that way.
yeah. So I mean, like, the best part of what we've built and the best part of what we've done with the ads ecosystem is really focus on an area that is, when people enter your world, they will be there
Mhm.
in your world, right? And they will not stop seeing you. Um, Originally, I think it started with us doing it organically. You would reach out, I'd have like, I have this framework, I have this piece of document, I have this checklist, I have this. And I know you asked me a couple times a lot, actually. You're like, hey, I would love that. I would love that. You're awesome. You're awesome. And that's great and all, but I know I also asked questions. We talked about working together from an agency perspective in the past, but it was also, um, just because you said no didn't mean I stopped providing value to you, or I stopped helping you out
Right.
and moving you in the direction that you wanted to go. I think that's important because I think with what we're doing, you're providing the same experience for people on the other side.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually got connected with you because I wasn't and still am actually part of Laurel's group. And love her approach, love her system, and she also talks about people that are using her system and doing really well with it. And because I trusted her, initially it was like you and two others that she mentioned. Eventually she's like, I don't recommend those two others anymore, and she just recommends you. But in that I recognized that, so I started following you. And then I would start seeing a lot of your stuff popping up, and you would offer things. I think your AI one was a big one where you're like, here are some things that I can use, that systems, questions, stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I'm the type of person that I like to absorb a lot of knowledge, and then I filter through it, and then I figure out which points I want to use, and then I'll go out and I'll put them into play and kind of test them. So I was getting stuff from Laurel. I know you use her system and have some other little tweaks and stuff you do to it. So I would try to get stuff from you, and then look at some of those overlaps and figure out some of that implementation. And then yeah, I so I think it was a year, it may have been a year and a half, that I would not only follow your content and get some of your stuff, but sometimes I would just reach out and be like, hey, what are your thoughts on X? Um, and
Yeah,
then I
absolutely.
discovered in one of our conversations that you started doing consulting, and it was like, oh, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
that, but that was after about a year and a half of doing that, because just the profit margins in my field meant that I kind of already had to be at the point I was wanting to get to make it reasonable to actually hire an agency. So when we
Right.
came into the space where I was able to get the guidance that I needed, and I could still do the work. So it was kind of that. So I had the expertise here, kind of able to look over my shoulder, and then I could go in and do the work. That it started. That was when it was like, okay, this is a really good match. Let's do this. And that was, I think we started in February of this year, in the very end of
Hmm.
February.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
basically March.
But yeah, basically March. Yeah, so and then help us like just let everyone know more specifically where you were then. So you were kind of in the space of like you were growing and you were implementing the system already, but there were some, it sounds like there were really some tweaks that you needed that were specialized specific to you. That you just need a little bit more like nuance dive, deep dive into.
The way that I learn is I'll go in and I'll try things, but I also sometimes need to do things with somebody that understands how to do it, right? And that
Yeah.
was kind
Hmm.
of what we did in the beginning was we would say, okay, let's we started off and you'd be like, here's a formula for how you can put together a script. And I was like, how about we use our time today and just write it together? Once we had it
Yeah.
written together, then I was like, okay, I get kind of the flow of what we're doing, how we're pulling concepts into it. And then I could build out variations of that. And because I knew now what I was doing and I was able to do that fairly quickly.
Hmm.
But we had to get to that point. And that was really a big thing that you brought in was that every week we had an hour, just about an hour, that we were able to sit down, work on something like this is our big thing for this week that we need to work on. We'd work on that together, put it into play, and then I would use the week before to then record, implement it, finish some of those things out, and do it that way. But I needed some of that to help me have a better understanding. Um, and then there were other elements as well that I didn't even know that I needed, like that, because I thought I came in, I thought I had a pretty good understanding of where my numbers were at, and where my lifetime customer value was at, and things like that. And as we started pulling things back, I went in and reanalyzed those and realized that I have a longer span of time that
Hmm.
clients tend to stay with me than what I thought, which means that I have a greater lifetime value which changes now. That lifetime value changes what I need in terms of cost per acquisition. That opens up a lot more space to work with ads because I'm not trying to squeeze it in
Yeah.
here, which was why I thought I was failing before, was because I felt like I had to keep it at such a low threshold that it wouldn't be effective.
I like to start there, right? To really, there's a rough way of doing it, and that gives us a baseline to start from. And then, as exactly as you said, right, the first 30 days, we're really looking at can we, that's our top threshold. Can we beat that? Can we make it better? And then once we were able to hit below that, then it became a game of can we just optimize now and tweak and adjust and here and there. And then it's just starting to tailor it and massage it a little bit, right? So we can get to where you're at now. So talk a little bit about like where I guess where you're at now. Like what have you seen change? What would you say is attributed to what we've done together? What would you say is actually also attributed to how you showed up and what are the things that you're doing with us?
The other thing that I learned from you, the system, it's like a gear, right? So people take a little while to build up because they're learning about it, they're learning about you, and they're starting to research you, which means that
Hmm.
sure, the first thing that they saw was I have an ad up about a breathing exercise to help calm anxiety when it starts to become overwhelming. Cool, but then they watch that, and now they're in my system, and they're seeing things about understanding anxiety. They're seeing things about the nature of what we do and how we do it. They're seeing things about who I am, my own past with anxiety, and so they're learning these things, and then they're like, okay, well, let me learn more about it. So then they start searching me. Who is Thomas, or what is Tempest Counseling? And then all of a sudden I start getting these leads that are coming in, all of a sudden bumping up from Psychology Today or some of the other directories, or I start getting a bunch that are coming in from the website, but they're being shown as direct traffic. They're not showing that they're coming from an ad.
Hmm.
And when I talk with them and I ask how they find out, what I discover is these people have been watching my stuff for a while, getting to learn
Yep.
about me, but they aren't booking necessarily through the ad, right? They're going to the website, they're researching me, they're coming in through other avenues. And in the past, I would have turned my ads off because
Yep.
my thought was the ads aren't converting, right?
It's true because it will affect just about everything else, right? Because it's like once you start becoming known, people get curious. People want, and if the philosophy behind all of that, right? The way I look at it is like it's human to human.
Mm-hmm.
And as humans, and I talk because I host an in-person event here in Colorado, and I tell people all the time, if you were to go network in person, which it takes forever for things to pan out that way, and you don't know for a while, it's hard to track, but that's what we're doing online. You're seeing someone at this networking event, you have a conversation, you schedule a coffee chat, then you go and see them at another place, and then you see them at this event, and you see them like at the random Home Depot or something, and then you're like, oh hey, and you start kind of seeing this person more often, and the fact that they're seeing them more often consistently, and that you're now also providing education and value, and what I mean by value is like you're helping them make some kind of advancement towards what their goals are, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
a perspective shift and an awareness of something or simply an exercise like you said. Those are all pieces that play together to help develop who is Thomas. Is he the right person for me? And it becomes I like to look at it from a gaming perspective of like it gets to become a choose your own adventure on their side. They can say like, you know what, I'm just going to schedule and asking questions, or they're the person that's like, I'm going to look at this article over here that he was published in. I'm going to check out his other listings over here. I'm going to check out this. I'm going to ask someone that may have worked with him in the past that I know, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's up to them how they decide. We can't force that. We can facilitate that to be in front of them, though,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's the thing. I want to be in there. I want to be in their
mhm,
sphere. Hmm.
exactly. So, talk a little bit about what I mean. You talked about like what you learned and what you've been doing. Um, Talk a little bit about what has been. I would say like what has been one of like if you had top two big takeaways from just the last couple of months, like what would you say has been
Well,
those two
some
big
of
things?
them I've already kind of talked about, right?
Yeah.
That I mean, the understanding of the numbers becomes really critical because if I can take my cost of acquisition and what still is profitable and expand that just a little bit, it makes things so much easier to get people in. If I can get people in with $100 and I'm profitable, that's great. If I can do $200 of what you call profitable, now it's easy, right? And
Yeah.
so and so some of the things that this is another thing that we developed early on when I went back and reviewed kind of my processes was
Who would you say is like the perfect fit to come into something like this and say, I'm ready to do this? What makes that person ready? What did you need to have ready? Or what
sure.
would you say where
So
should
it's
someone
gonna
be?
so there's a couple of things that I would say. And it's gonna depend a little bit on where on different stages as to how they come in.
Hmm.
My first thing is that people are that are also willing to like they're not just and hand something over. They're wanting to be hands-on in the stuff that they're doing and they want to have an understanding because I'm still in the videos, right? Like I still have to record those. So it's people that are actually willing to put in the work and not just, okay, let me give this to you and run it.
Yep.
That's kind of a general thing. But then from there, depending on where people are at in their growth, they're going to have different ways that to connect with you that and that I went through, right? And the first way that when we talked about this, it was I spent a year just constantly getting your content, getting the things that you put out, implementing them, putting them into place, continuing to grow. So some people, particularly if they're just starting off and trying to get some basic foundations in and don't really have money to invest in um, in a consultant or in an agency, that would be the way to go. As things are starting to grow a little bit, um, then the consultancy would be the way to do it, because you still need to have time available to put the work in, right?
Hmm.
You need to have a little bit of money available, um, to be able to pay for you. It's not as much as the agency, but to be able to pay for you as a consultant, and then also to be able to pay for ad spend, right? Like our that base level for just this to get working is usually about 500 a month, which is like nothing compared to most ad, like majority of ad spend, right? But still, for somebody that's
Yeah.
just starting off, that may sometimes be a barrier. So you want to have that. But if
Hmm.
you're able to do that, the consultancy is where, um, I would certainly recommend for most small businesses, because they're going to get the information they need. They're going to be able to have an understanding of what's actually happening. They're still going to have to put in the work, but there's the constant guidance, and that's where it was effective for me.
All the time. I have no problem helping you out. I have no problem doing providing you with resources and everything like that. I mean, like we did that for what, a year and a half before.
Year and a
Um,
half, yeah, something like
but
that.
but the difference, I think, for you than perhaps some other people that I've talked to in the past is you you take the resource or you take the education or whatever it was, you implement it, and then you come back with like, here's what happened, what next? And I think that's an important key there is personally, I would even say like, please don't waste my time because if you're going to ask for stuff and then not do it, I mean, just with anything, I'm sure no one likes to have that feeling of, yeah, I'll take this thing, but then I won't ever do anything with it. And then, hey, why isn't it working? Well, you didn't do anything. Why would you expect anything to work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would take some things of yours and I would assess them and figure out, is this something that will actually work to be implement right now?
Hmm.
And there were some, well, no, most I was able to take and implement. There were some that I had something similar in play, or like I was getting to a point, like some of the DM strategies that you would send me when I would reach out,
Hmm.
right? I was getting to a point where I couldn't facilitate maintaining those with any sort of,
Right.
so like those didn't work. So there was sometimes some filtering, but yeah, if you're gonna, I mean, it's just like anything, right? You're never gonna hit the point where you can afford to hand it over to somebody else if you don't make use of the time to implement the things on your own.
Yep. Exactly. So I appreciate that because I believe that's important too. So, but man, you like we get stuff done. You actually show up and you do it, and then you come back and you ask for feedback, and it's like it's. I love working with people like you.
Before connecting with you and Laurel, I've tried multiple other agencies. I've hired people to run ads for me and spent thousands of dollars a month just on them, in addition to ads. And it wasn't effective. I didn't know my numbers very well at that point, or I wouldn't have done that. But but that wasn't didn't be effective. I've done courses that where I've invested over $10,000 in single courses to just help me learn the process, and have coaches that have helped me to learn how to be able to do things effectively. And the stuff that I get with you and with Laurel, has been significantly more effective than those tens of thousands of dollars I've spent previously. So I wish I had an awareness of a lot of this earlier on, so it would have saved myself a lot of money.
I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you being transparent with sharing, what you have done too, right? Because it's I can say like I'm awesome all day long, but I know it also has like your side of it too. You actually show up, you do it, and you implement it, you take the action, and then you come back and we make adjustments from there. And it's I think that's important to just end it on there. It is
Yeah,
it's not just me, right? It's me helping you get to where you want to go, but you also have to know where you're going, and you have to be the one. You also have to be willing to take that action. Even from our agency clients, like our agency clients, I have them create content too, because it's still something that we need from them. We cannot run their business for them, right?
mm-hmm.
And it's still your business. Someone like me is coming in to facilitate growth in a way that shortens the path, but it's not, we're not going to completely grow everything for
Eliminate
you.
the path. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, Yeah, I appreciate you. I know we're about to jump on here with our time, so we'll do that
Our
here, and we'll
weekly meeting. Yep.
yeah. So we'll jump in there on the
All right.
live, and then there we go.